Hi, so this is Armaan for anybody who is not in my AP US History class, and I am going to do a reflection over part one of the American pageant. So, in this class, we were asked to do a video reflection out of any topic, and I thought that something really interesting would be something that nobody else could do, something that is personal to me, instead of doing something more general that anybody could analyze over the chapter. And so I thought that an interesting thing to do would be to compare my carving class with my AP US history class and parts like one through part one in the chapter in the book. Um, so, a quick comparison is just I'm going to do between my AP US history class and carving class itself. So basically, the whole year we work and work. We spend countless hours reading. We work in class. We take these quizzes, and we spend so much effort. And hopefully, the end goal is, in addition to learning and self gaining from this. In addition to that, our really important goal is to do well on the test because that's what we're preparing for. And just like carving, we spend the same amount of time in class because it's the same size of class. We spend almost an hour and a half every other day, sometimes more if I go in with my free periods. And we work and we work and we hope to create this finished, polished product. And I think you could relate that to the test. The AP test is almost like this finished piece of art. And though this piece of art may have its minor flaws, it's still we are still proud of it and we're still satisfied with it, even though others may be a little bit better or a little bit more perfect. And even like the AP score, like even if somebody gets like a 3 or a 4, we are really proud of that score, even though others may have gotten something, say, maybe better, like a 5. But we are still really proud of that score, and it's just as valid as anybody else's, considering the amount of time that we put in. Okay, so also I just want to compare like carving class and history, like in general, and just maybe add some specific events through the chapters that I thought I could relate to history. So in carving class, every stroke of the knife when you're carving, I think that could be compared to a different event in history. And the finished product, like the piece of art, could be comparable to like modern day society. And how that works is I think that every stroke of the knife is like an event, and it leads to another stroke of the knife, which leads to another thing, which leads to another thing, which eventually becomes modern society. And so basically what I'm trying to get at is that like in this book, I thought a major theme was kind of how all these events are related, and the significance of them is because they lead to something else. They're not just self-standing, because if they were like isolated, these events, they wouldn't be as important to history as a whole. And so just like one example of this is, when how in England, the economy was just horrible at one time, and there was no jobs, and all of these indentured servants had this they went to America to seek better work, even though it was practically slavery. So they all came to America, and this led to things like Bacon's Rebellion, for example, which couldn't have happened without the existence of these indentured servants in America. And things like Bacon's Rebellion led to things like slavery, because people would rather have slaves, which are not so rebellious, than these indentured servants, which proved to be quite rebellious. And so basically, like, this bad economy in England, all the way on the other half of the world, led to slaves being brought from Africa to America, like crazy separation of events that are all connected. And I think that's really interesting and is related to carving, because like in carving, you can't get to step 3 without doing step 2. It's all connected. Like if I do a stroke of the knife in carving, it leads to the next one, which leads to the next one, and etc. So in addition, I think another big theme throughout the chapter was how mistakes or accidents kind of like shape history and how important these mistakes are. And one of Mr. Gartzka, and Mr. Gartzka is our carving teacher for anybody who's watching this video that is not in the Miami Valley School, but Mr. Gartzka tells us that you can't expect your finished product to exist without any mistakes, and you have to change what you want your finished product to be according to the mistakes that you are inevitably going to make. And so in carving, you can't do anything perfect. Even Mr. Gartzke himself, who is a master carver, says himself that some of his favorite pieces are favorite like pieces of art are his favorite because of the path he took and the actions that he took to resolve that mistake. And I think that's really interesting and can be related to history because, for example, this is just one of many, but like, for example, Columbus came to America, and though he didn't discover America because there was others already there, he like proved the existence of it to Europe. And this was a big factor because it eventually led to, again, like a stroke of the knife to a stroke of the knife to a stroke of the knife. It led to things like modern day America, which is one of the biggest powers on earth. So I think this, and he was intentionally trying to go to India. And so this like, well, it was a big mistake, but this mistake had huge implications, and there was things and repercussions that happened because of this. And it's just like carving. So my last comparison, which is kind of a quick one, is just how carving is only subtractive, unlike ceramics or art, painting or drawing or sketching. It's one of the few arts that is only subtractive. You can't add anything. You chip away at it, or you carve it, or you just get rid of material, instead of other arts where you add and you paint and you apply clay or something like that. So, and I think this is like history because, especially like in these couple first chapters, in these few first chapters, you can't have irreversible steps. All these events cannot be undone, and they lead to another event, which leads to another event. And again, like, I'm just trying to reinforce this point, but it is important because all of these events in history are set in stone, and they lead to something else instead of being like isolated. So what I'm trying to get at is there's just no irreversible steps in history or carving. So yeah, that was just a quick comparison between my AP US History class and the chapters we read in carving, and I hope that you understood it, even though it was a little bit of a stretch. Thanks.